So today we're going to do the handover video on the Luna Roadstar. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side, you'll see that you've got your fill-up points. Opening up the passenger door will gain you access to your diesel fill-up point. Obviously make sure it's diesel and not petrol. Whilst we're on the passenger side, you'll notice on your cab windows you have also got your Emm-Bee blinds, so you just operate them simply by pinching the little plastic piece and pulling it like so. Using the magnetic strip that just connects it into place. As well as the side windows, you have got these on the front as well, which operate the same way. I typically find that if you do take your time with these, they can often get caught, that's why. So just take your time with it, and I'd probably leave from the bottom, as they can often get caught at the bottom. And as a rule of thumb with anything in a motorhome, we always say if it feels like it's being forced, you're probably doing something wrong, so just bear that in mind. Whilst we're on the passenger side as well, your bonnet release catch is just located underneath here. Now underneath the bonnet, there's not many things that we need to go through. The main things that you need to know are if you're ever jump starting the vehicle. I'll just lift the bonnet now for you, and I'll point out where that can be done from. Okie dokie, so with the bonnet open, you can see that, as I say, the main things that you need to know underneath there is if you ever jump starting the vehicle. Your positive terminal is just underneath this cap here. It's just located underneath where your brake disc fluid is, and your negative can just connect onto that point. As I say, they're the main things that you need to know, but just to point out a couple more things, you can see you've got your engine oil here with your dipstick below that. Your washer fluid is just up here. We've spoken about your brake disc fluid, and then your engine coolant is just in the corner there. Moving around to the side of the vehicle, you can see on this side you have got your gas hookup point. Obviously you need to make sure that when travelling your gas is always turned off at the bottle, but when on site you can then using a pigtail feed your gas through and let that run through the vehicle, but always make sure when travelling your gas is turned off for safety. You can get two bottles in here, as you can see, and they just will connect up to the regulator using a pigtail, as I've mentioned. Moving on, you can see that here you've got your toilet cassette. I'll open that up for you now. So with the locker open, you can see it gains you access to the cassette toilet itself. It's dead easy and dead easy to operate. All you need to do is pull up and slide out like so. Now the main thing that you need to remember is to always have the blade closed before removing the cassette. If you was to do that and the blade was open, this will get stuck and it will get jammed. What that can lead to is it snapping and cracking. So just make sure that that blade is closed completely, and then you can simply slide out like so. It's dead easy. Now once out, all you need to do is simply slide out the funnel like so, remove the cap just by twisting it off, and then using the orange button right on the back, that releases an internal vacuum on the inside, which will allow you to get rid of all the contents. For cleaning, you can put obviously some water in here and give it a swill out, but in the top here there's a little measurement on there as a guide where you can put your blue fluid in, and that will get rid of any waste on the inside as well. You will notice that you've also got this orange tab that turns. This is what makes contact with the blade, and it's what opens and closes the cassette. You need to always make sure this is in this position. You should never need to move that. The only reason this should have come out with is that it's in this position. So if you was to move it slightly and try to put it back in, it could potentially again damage and break it. So always leave it like that. Dead easy, dead simple. Once you've done with the cap back on, slide the funnel back in, and then all you need to do is simply line it up. As you can see, that just connects in like so. So it's dead easy. And then lock up the locker. Moving on, you can see that you've got your hookup point for your 230 volt electric. So this is where you'll get mains hook up to the vehicle for all your lighting. And then at the back, you'll notice you've got a vent which says Truma on there. That's for your boiler. It does get hot, that, so just bear that in mind. Don't hang anything on there. At the back, there's not much to the back, but you can see that you've got your window Whilst we're talking about your windows, always make sure that they are closed when travelling. People are tempted to leave them on vent and everything when travelling. I always say make sure they are closed to ensure no wind gets underneath it. And you'll generate a bit of a checklist before moving off site, just to ensure like your aerials are down, your windows are closed, obviously gas is off at the bottle, little bits like that. Now we come to your first drain down point on the vehicle, and this is for your freshwater drain down point, which is located directly at the back and underneath. I'll just get lower on the video so you can have a look. As you can see, it's just located here. It's a little bit hard to see on the video because of the shadow, but you can see you've got a blue pipe underneath here. All you need to do is remove this bung and that will drain down the entire tank. When you're good to go, just connect that back on and that will, as like so, and that will stop the water from escaping and allow you to use the vehicle. Now, whilst we're on the topic of drain down points, what I recommend is that you always ensure that the vehicle is drained down once not in use, when you're not using it, and when you're moving off site, to avoid any freezing in the tanks. This is especially for the boiler drain down point, which we'll get onto later. Now, moving on around the vehicle onto the other side, you can see that this is your fill up point for your freshwater tank. This is where you can fill it all up from. This tank holds about 100 litres, and obviously when it's overflowing, you know it's full. It's just as simple as that. What I recommend is using a food grade hose pipe just straight into there, so you don't get any bacteria which is building up in the pipe, and then you can put in your water. Next, you can see you've got your habitation door. We'll move on to the inside shortly. And then you've got your two fridge vents here. Do bear in mind that your fridge, as you can imagine, this is where the fridge pulls its air from to cool the fridge. If it is a hot day, you can see it's a nice day today, to make it run a little bit more efficiently, try and keep it in the shade, perhaps pull the awning out, just to help it, because obviously if it is a hot day, it is going to be struggling. Next to this, you've then got gas outlet, which is an external gas point. As you can see, obviously you'll need your gas on, turned on at the bottle for that to flow through. Once that's good to go, you can just connect up here using a bayonet fitting. And then, as we mentioned, the awning is at the top. The rules of the awning, I always say, if it is windy, don't bother using the awning, just stick it in. You can get storm straps and things like this. What I recommend to customers is, if there's a slight bit of wind, just stick it back in, because what you don't want to do is for some wind to get underneath that, for it to take it away and ultimately break the awning, damage your van and potentially harm others. So just make sure that if it is windy, just stick it in. If it's wet as well, so if it's raining, what we always say is if you catch it raining, just obviously stick it back in, and then when you get a dry day, just wind it out, just to let that air out and obviously dry out, because you don't want it leading to mould. Finally, on this side is your final drain down point on the outside of the vehicle, which is just located underneath here near the habitation door and just next to the rear wheel, and this is for your wastewater. So you can see that it's this grey tank here. All you need to do is pull that. Sorry, no, it's not. It's just a turn on this one. So simply turn that, and that will drain the entire tank, and that's for your wastewater. Something I didn't mention before when we was talking about your freshwater drain down point is, as I say, you should always get into the habit of draining it down. What we do say is, if you're on site, drain down the majority of the water, and then when you're travelling off, just leave all your drain down points open, because at the end of the day, it's just water, it's not harmful, and that will ensure that all the water gets out the vehicle, because as the vehicle is vibrating along, it's going to get all that residual water out. Now we're going to move on to the inside. That concludes the outside. Okie dokie, we're now on the inside of the vehicle, and as you walk through the habitation door, up at the top, you've got your control panel. So this is your main control panel, and next to that, that's for your heater. That's for your Truma heating on the inside of the vehicle, which will run your water, and obviously the space heater. Now, firstly, the control panel, dead easy, dead simple. You've got the on button. You can see that turns everything on. It turns the lights on and everything. Next to that, you've then got your pump button, so click that. only turn the pump on, obviously, if you've got water in the vehicle. But when you're on site, you've got water in the vehicle, click that pump button and then go to all of your taps, including your shower, and turn that on and turn it to hot. What that will do is it'll pull fresh water from the fresh water tank into the boiler and then out of the tap. It'll spurt and splutter, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your hot water. Once you've done that, flick it over to cooled and do the exact same, and that goes for all your taps, including your shower, as I mentioned. And then you're good to go. When it's running steadily, you've primed your system. Now, on each of your taps, you've got a micro switch fitted, so you don't have to, which will activate and deactivate the tap, the pump whenever you need it. So you don't need to keep, going up to the control panel and turning it on and off when you need it. The only thing you need to be conscious about is if you do run out of water and one of your taps is on, it's going to burn out your pump, so just bear that in mind. The reason I tell you to put it on hot first is, as I say, it'll pull water through your boiler. Your boiler holds about 10 litres of water, so once you've done that, if you do that, which is the first thing you do on site, and then you turn your heating on, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, it'll allow you to get that water to heat up. It's obviously going to take a while, so it's going to take a good 30 minutes or so to heat that water up. So it's the first thing you do on site. By the time you need it, it's going to be nice and warm for you. Now, coming back over to the control panel, next you've got your interior lights. You can see that's for your lights on the inside. You've then got your door light, which is just below that. You've then got these lights, which are more of your mood lighting at the top. And then next you've got your battery levels and indicators. So you can see, firstly, you've got your battery data. At the moment it shows what the solar's pulling. Not pulling much because we're just in the shade at the moment. And it shows you your battery ampage and your battery voltage. Click that again. And again you can see your leisure battery voltage along with your vehicle battery voltage as well, and it also shows the amps that it's pulling. So you've got two selections, one's for your leisure, one's for your vehicle. Finally, you've got a tank heater, which is for your wastewater tank. Wastewater tank's the only thing that's underslung in this vehicle, and that's the only thing when you are using it that could potentially freeze. So you can click that and that will heat the tank. What I personally recommend is you can use that, but I'd always keep it open with a bucket underneath it, just to ensure there's no water drained down. I mean, nice and simple. Coming over, you can then you've got a few options with this. To be honest, you don't need to go into too much detail with this. It just allows you to set the time and things. It's more for the settings, as you can see, and you can work your way through it. But as I say, the main things that you need to know are on this side here, and they indicate obviously what your levels are in terms of your vehicle battery and your leisure battery as well. Just before moving on as well, there's one thing I forgot to mention when I selected your leisure battery. It does also show you your fresh water tank, as you can see at the moment with nothing in, with a little bit in the waste tank, but that also indicates there. You can see that you've got your vehicle battery and then your leisure battery levels as well. Dead easy, dead simple. You do have the ability with this button to depend on to see whether if you want to run your lights off your vehicle battery or your leisure battery. Always keep it on your leisure battery, because for example, if you are, let's say, obviously wild camping and you run all your lights off your vehicle battery, you're going to be stuck. You're not going to be able to go anywhere. But obviously, if you get a flat leisure battery, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to have any lights. So it's not the end of the world. But that's all done on that panel there. Now moving on, next we've got your trimmer heating system. Dead easy, dead simple this. So everything below the line is what you want to select. So firstly, you've got your vehicle's temperature. You can change that, it goes up to a maximum of 30 degrees. Next, you've then got the option for your water heating. And just 1 second before I talk you through this, just bear with me. Sorry. So yeah, just coming over to your water heating next, you've got the option of Eco, as you can see, hot or boost. Eco is approximately 40 degrees, hot is approximately 60 degrees, so you'll be using that when you're washing up, and the majority of the times. Eco's really just when you're having a shower. And then your boost. Your boost concentrates on heating the water over heating the vehicle.
You have got the option of doing that for the vehicle heating as well, so it works vice versa. It really only works though once the heating's been it has got up to temperature, or once it's been running for about 30 minutes. Next, we've then got your fuel, so you can either run this off gas, Mix 1, Mix 2, EL1 or EL2. So the options are, if you're wild camping, you're going to be running it off your gas. You can then run it off Mix 1, which is a mixture of gas and 1 kilowatt electric, or Mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and 2 kilowatt electric. That tends to be if you're on a site which isn't supplied with the best electric or ampage. However, obviously, what I'd personally recommend is if that is the case, just run it off gas. It'll get it up to temperature miles quicker. Finally, you've then got your EL1, so 1 kilowatt electric, and then EL2, 2 kilowatt electric. You'll very rarely run it off electric. It's not really EL1 rather, because 1 kilowatt isn't really going to do a good job at heating this space, but EL2 will do. And then you can click that, and that will allow you to start fueling it up and heating the vehicle up. Next, we've got the fan option. So this is for your vehicle heating, so this is to turn on and off the fan. At the moment, I've not got anything selected, so it's just saying vents, which will recirculate the current air. But once I have got something selected, it gives you the option of eco, high or boost. Again, similar idea. It gives you the option of having the normal intensity fan, but if it is a cool day, you can obviously increase that. And then you have got that boost option should you want to emphasize the heating for the vehicle rather than the water. Going back up to the panel as well, you can see that if we carry on, you've got your timer, so you can start a timer if you want. You can obviously change the time as well on the panel. And then finally, you've got your settings. Now, the main thing that you need to know in the settings is the reset button. There's various things like index, language, and stuff like that you can obviously change. But the main thing that you need to know is the reset button. Now, the reason you'll need a reset 9 times out of 10 is because you'll get an error code on the panel. Now, the reason you'll get an error code is, for example, if you've selected the wrong fuel. So say, for example, we're on site and we're hooked up to electric, but with no gas, and you're trying to run the heating system using gas, but obviously you've no gas, it's not going to be able to power itself up, so you'll get an error code. If you get that error code, you need to go into that panel and click reset. It'll reset and it'll initialize and it'll appear done after 30 seconds, but you do have to wait 20 minutes just for that reset to fully operate and work. When traveling, ensure that that's off, so hold the button down. As you can see, that turns it off. And if you can remember, because it'll just save you having to reset it every time, make sure you turn that off before removing any fuel to it. So say, for example, you're running off electric before, and you're moving off site, before taking the electric lead out, turn that off and power it off. Because if you just simply take the electric lead out, it'll stop working. You'll get an error code because obviously you're taking that fuel away. So just bear that in mind. Next, going on to the kitchen area. You can see that you've got your fridge here. This is a Dometic 3-way fridge. They're very good, these fridges. There's 3 ways to power it. You've got the first on button, and then the 3 other options of how you're going to fuel it, similar to your obviously your heating. So firstly, you've got your 230 volt electric. When you're on site, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be running it off this. When you're wild camping, next you can run it off gas, which is this little flame symbol. And then finally, when you're travelling, you can run it off the 12 volt leisure battery. Now, a lot of people think that when they're wild camping, they can just run it off the leisure battery. That's not the case. It will just simply drain all of the energy out of the leisure battery. It just draws too much, so it'll leave you without any power. So you can only run the leisure battery when travelling, or run the fridge off the leisure battery when you're travelling, as this vehicle has a built-in alternator which will send power from the vehicle battery to your leisure battery, which will ultimately power the fridge and allow you to do that. You've then got the temperature, so you can change the temperature, and then you've got a reset button should you ever select the wrong fuel. And obviously you can reset the system. One thing to know with the fridge is it does a very good job at maintaining the temperature, but not the best of jobs at getting it down to temperature. So just bear that in mind. I'd put things in. If you want cold things to be in the fridge, put cold things in. If you want frozen things to be in the freezer, stick frozen things in there. Moving back up, we've spoken obviously about priming system, your tap. You can see you've got an extractor fan up here, along with your full oven and grill. One electric burner, which is quite nice, and obviously your 3
gas rings. Also a bit of storage in here along with your microwave. Please bear in mind that your microwave will only work when hooked up to electric, as it's 230 volt. Just bear that in mind as well. Opposite the kitchen, you've got a bit of hanging space, nice bit of space, as well as your table, which is a freestanding table, so you can use it inside and out. You'll also notice that you've got some fuses down here as well, so if you ever blow a fuse, you know where to locate them. Just here. Below that, you've more storage. As you can see, some fridge vents in there as well, our fridge covers. And next, we have your bathroom area, as you can see. Now, there's not much to the bathroom that you need to know, because obviously we've spoken about priming the system. The main thing that you need to know is obviously closing and opening the blade when the toilet's in use. As I mentioned outside, it's key that the blade is always closed when the toilet is not in use. The blade that I keep mentioning is this piece of plastic here. It's this silver piece here. Push that away to you to open, pull it towards you to close. So when in use, you need to open it so all the waste can drop into the cassette. Once you've done that, click that blue button on the top, which activates your flush, and that will flush the system. Once you've done that, you can then pull that pull it towards you, close it. You close it for two reasons. The main reason, of course, being it stops odours from escaping. But the second reason is it just gets you into habit of having that closed, so when you come to remove the cassette, it doesn't get jammed. Now, as I mentioned, your blue button activates your flush. Do bear in mind you do need your pump on for that to work as well. You've got a bit of storage in there as well. And do be mindful, obviously, about putting weight on this when using it as storage, because you don't want to crack the shower base. Next, you've got a bit of storage in these drawers as well, along with a 230 volt plug, which is handy. And then at the rear of the vehicle, you've got your living space, which also turns in and transforms into your bed. You've got storage all along as well, as you can see. It's dead handy. Now, under the two benches, on this side, you've got your final drain down point, which I'll show you in a minute. That's for your boiler. You've then got, in this middle section, your fresh tank. That's where that's located. And then on this side, you've mostly storage. And as I say, at the top, you've more storage as well. I'll just dismantle this lounge now for you, and I'll just show you where your third drain down point is. Okie dokie, so with it lifted, you can see it gains you access to your boiler drain down point. The boiler drain down point that I mentioned is just this little yellow valve here. In the up position it's open, in the down position it's closed. When not in use, always have it drain down. When in use, you need to flick that down. Obviously it's not going to freeze if you're using it, but when you're wild camping and when you're putting the vehicle into storage, just leave that open so it can drain down. A lot of people often forget about this, and then they have obviously water draining out the outside the van, and that's the reason. Here as well, you've got a regulator along with your sergeant box, which is up at the top with some more fuses in as well. Now, what I'd personally just stay away from this. There's not really anything that you need to know on here apart from your fuses. There is options of shutting this system down, as you can see, system shutdown, which will reset the entire thing. A lot of people do that when they're going in when they're as a form of hibernation mode. Can't get my words out then. And that will just shut everything down for you. But obviously, you got to appreciate you can do more or less all of that on that panel there. It's really just for the technicians, this. You can see on this side you've got your Rcd breaker as well, so if the vehicle ever trips, you need to come to this point here. You've got a test button as well, just to see whether there's any voltage coming in. Obviously if it trips, you know that you're getting power in, and therefore there's a fault with your vehicle, rather than the site or the hookup cable that you're using. You can see your leisure battery is also located underneath here. I've just removed this piece of wood. You can see that's just located just down there. So next, moving our way around, you can see next up you've got your fresh water tank, which gains you access. Now, as I say, draining this down is done on the outside of the vehicle. The only time you'll need to access this is if you ever want to unscrew this to give the water tank a clean out. Now, realistically, I don't recommend drinking out the fresh water tank. But obviously you can clean it out, but with that in mind, you don't really need to clean it out that much. I'd say 2 or 3 times a year. You can put purifying tablets in there as well if you want, but as I say, I wouldn't drink out of the tank with it being plastic. In the corner here, I forgot to mention, that's where your physical boiler is actually located. Obviously your boiler drain down point's in here for easy access, but the actual boiler is there. And this side is just some storage. So we're nearly done now. The final thing is to obviously make this into a big double bed, should you want to. A lot of people do use these as 2 singles, which you could get away with just by removing these and the backrests. However, if you're making it into a big double bed, it's dead simple and dead easy for you. I'll do that for you now. And as you can see, all that happens, you've got 2 slide out pieces here, which meet in the middle. They don't meet flush, but it doesn't matter, don't worry about that. And that creates the base for the middle section. To create this into a big double bed, all you need to do is you slide this across, this cushion into the middle. This one slides across to meet it. And then these pieces here just slot into the ends just to make it into a big double bed, which I'll do for you now. My mistake, guys. Instead of these moving into the middle, these stay where they are. You can see the backrests just slot in the middle. You just need to remove that middle cushion, which creates the L-shaped seating. Now that concludes the handover video on the Luna Roadstar EL. I hope you enjoyed.